All right. Welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Welcome to another mock draft, brother.
Welcome, John. Happy to be here, baby. Ready to get this mock on.
That's right. Today we're doing a mock draft, guys. Please follow us on social media, Twitter, Frankly Fantasy F, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Frankly Fantasy Football. Please subscribe to the podcast. Thank you so much for everybody subscribing. Loving these mock drafts. Thank you for the comments. Please, let's go, baby. Today we're doing a mock draft. We are doing a 12-team half PPR with a flex. Very standard, typical league. We wanted to hit as many people as we could that are going to be doing their cramming and last-minute drafting. So you know what? When you're driving to your fantasy mock or your fantasy draft this weekend, throw us on in the car and we'll give you some good tips here and see how we do. All right, let's go. I'm going to be drafting out of the 2 spot, and Frankie's going to be drafting out of the 11 spot. So we're going to give everybody a little taste of the turns there. All right, let's get it started, baby.
Boom.
All right, Christian McCaffrey taking number 1 overall. I was not expecting that. This makes this very easy. I don't need to think about it or talk about it. Just be about it, baby. It's Justin Jefferson's the pick for me here, man. That's an easy one.
Easy peasy.
Super, super easy. All right.
And John, quick question. While you're looking to plug in JJ there, did you see Christian McCaffrey's most recent update? They let him know and actually posted out something. And this is great for the viewers and the listeners to actually check out as well, is that they ended up saying that they are not planning on giving him a full workload like what he had in that of Carolina. So again, what that means, it's all in speculation, right? For the average Joe. But for those listening and watching, that could change your strategy if you have number 1, and maybe you do number 1 overall, do go with the safer up, a little bit more of a safer floor of that of, JJ. So just keep that in mind. That is something that came out. So it could be interesting in the way this unfolds.
Yeah, I don't know if it's really going to affect McCaffrey that much. I mean, he's super efficient anyway. What I do think it could do is make Elijah Mitchell a little more valuable because he is going to run the ball. Yeah, definitely. It could be a Tony Pollard situation from a few years ago, even.
Could very well be.
Yeah. All right. I'm locking in Justin Jefferson. Let's see here. All right, on the clock. Here we go. We got Austin Eckler, Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Nick Chubb, and Travis Kelce. Very interesting first round there. Frank, you're on the clock.
Yeah, this is interesting, guys, because what I'm looking at now is there was a lot of running backs taken off the board there. And so I usually try to get a running back towards the back half, but there's just a guy on here that I feel like separates himself a bit more from the pack than some of the others. And so what I mean by that is from a running back perspective, there's Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard. And then from a receiver perspective, it's Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, C.D. Lamb, Devontae Adams. Guys, I'm going to do something I normally wouldn't do, but I want to keep a little bit more to the script. I'm going to go Stephon Diggs here. I just want to see what that tier looks like for that getting a top tier receiver, and then knowing that it's going to come back around my way, and it did. So, John, what we're looking at, I just drafted Stephon Diggs. We had Patrick Mahomes afterward, A.J. Brown after that, comes back my way, and I am salivating because if this actually happened in my draft, I'd be very happy. And you might disagree, but I am not. I love it. I'm going to lock in Derrick Henry, John, and really ride this thoroughbred horse into the ground this year and anchor my team on Diggs and Henry.
Hey, just because I personally don't like Derrick Henry, I can't blame you for making the pick. It's just a personal preference for me. That's all. So Frankie starting out strong with Stephon Diggs and Derrick Henry. High volume pair you got there. All right, Amon-Ra St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, Josh Allen, Tony Pollard, Jonathan Taylor taken right in front of me. Frankie, let's touch on Jonathan Taylor for a second here. We've had some news. The teams have cut down to the 53-man rosters. Jonathan Taylor could not find a suitor He's going to be a Colt. Why don't you break that down a little bit? What's going on with JT, and when are you going to draft him, if at all?
Yeah, dude, it's really an unfortunate situation for fantasy as well as for the Colts and JT. All around, it's unfortunate. The reason being is because they were close, quote unquote, close on a deal with a few partners, one being that of Miami. But once the news kind of came out of what was asked of Miami to get that of Jonathan Taylor, it was ridiculous, right? It was multiple picks and Jalen Waddle. They're basically looking to sell the farm. And again, John, we hit on it, right? Irsay's coming out and saying, yeah, the running back market is what it is, but then they're asking for the entire farm, which means that there is value with the running backs. They just don't want to have to pay them. So it's not really a great situation. And so from a fantasy perspective, John, it's tough. For me, I am absolutely straying away. He is off my board completely. He is on the PUP list, which means he will miss 4 weeks right out of the gate. And so I don't like this, anything that has transpired, because also another layer on top of this, John, is Anthony Richardson. He is a running quarterback. And so that's also going to eat into Jonathan Taylor. Who's to say that Anthony Richardson can even throw the ball accurately in a real live game, which he struggled with that at Florida. So now if defenses know this, Andy's a rookie, they're definitely going to stack the box, which just even hinders that of Jonathan Taylor. We saw what happened last year when Matt Ryan couldn't throw the ball very well. And look what defenses did, and it killed Jonathan Taylor in that offensive line. So for me, man, even looking at this, Jonathan Taylor would have to fall to the third round and very tail end of the third round for me to even remotely take him. So it's really difficult landscape with Jonathan Taylor right now.
I agree. I'm not even, unless he falls to me late third round, fourth round, then I consider it, because then I can plug in RB2s and different things in the meantime. But yeah, I mean, that high a draft capital, I can't do it, man. I can't. But here's what I can do in round 2 on the turn to pair up with Justin Jefferson. I can absolutely take Josh Jacobs. I can have JJ and JJ. First pick, second pick.
JJ
Let's go. JJ squared, which I'm really happy about. It's the first time I've actually ever drafted Josh Jacobs in a mock draft because it took that long for him to get his shit together. All right, right after that, Chris Olave and Jalen Hurts were taken. I'm back on the clock here. My typical automatic third round pick is Mark Andrews, but I'm going to take a look at, since I'm in the front of the draft here, who the running backs and receivers are. Got T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, Deebo Samuel, Najee Harris at running back, Travis Etienne, Ramondre. I think this is my auto pick, man. I am going to go with Mark Andrews here. I feel really good about taking that. All right. After Mark Andrews, we've got Jahmyr Gibbs, Najee Harris, T. Higgins, Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, and Frankie, you are on the clock around the turn in the third round. Who are you going to pair up with Stephon Diggs and Derrick Henry?
So, guys, this is where you want to be looking at who is behind you in the draft. You want to be analyzing, okay, they already have a quarterback and they also have a receiver. They are more than likely going to need to go running back here, knowing they went quarterback first. So knowing that, I'm going to take the best available running back, knowing that that's probably what they're going to target. So for me, the running backs that I'm looking at is Joe Mixon, Breece Hall, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker. It's easy here. I'm going to go with the RB1 on Cincinnati and Mixon to where there's nobody really behind him, restructured contract, and a dynamic offense as my RB2. Love that. Locking in Joe Mixon.
That's an easy call, Frank. He's definitely at the bottom of that last tier of running backs. You get into Breece Hall, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker. They're just not on the same level. Number one of health and number one of opportunity of Joe Mixon. There's no one behind him. I think Joe Mixon's quietly in that third round, but he absolutely can return first round value. Good pick. Right after Joe Mixon, Calvin Ridley. He snaked him from you, Frank. You
That's
couldn't
who
get
I was
him.
going with.
I knew you were. I saw that on the board. Calvin Ridley and Keenan Allen. So this guy, Team 12, he took a quarterback and 3 receivers right off the bat.
Zero RB.
All right. What are you doing, Frank?
So I'm definitely going to go back to the well at receiver here. So I want to pair there's quite a few good receivers, guys. So I already have Stephon Diggs. Love that anchor. But I'm also looking at Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Moore. This is tough because I'm actually torn here between the top three guys, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, and that of DJ Moore. All of them are good value in my eyes at this specific pick. All of them have their pros and cons. John, for me, I'm going to go with a hometown hero. I love his offense to what he's in with Deshaun Watson and that of Kevin Stefanski. This is the year that he has the ability to continue being a top 12 receiver. He cracked the top 10 last year. I'm locking in Amari Cooper.
It's a great pick, man. Love that pick. Right after Amari Cooper, Lamar Jackson, George Kittle, Breece Hall, Joe Burrow, Kenneth Walker, TJ Hawkinson, which let's just talk for a second.
Whoa.
TJ Hawkinson today just reset the tight end market, man. Yeah, put on your GM hat, Frankie, and tell us about it.
I mean, if you're TJ Hawkinson, you're salivating. You know who else should be salivating is Travis Kelce, is potentially Kyle Pitts, is potentially George Kittle on a recontract, and Mark Andrews. These guys, TJ Hawkinson just absolutely reset the market. He's getting about $17 million a year, John, which is incredible. So just the extent of this contract, guys, it was a 4-year, $68.5 million contract, $17 million per year. Totally revamps it. Again, what this tells me is this is their ride and die. And for the Vikings, they're locking him in for long-term to pair with JJ and Jordan Addison, right? The who will be receiver 2 or 3, depending with KJ Osborne. So I think this is really fascinating. Good job for you, TJ Hawkinson, but even better for some of the other elite tight ends that have a contract coming up.
Okay, then Aaron Jones was taken and DJ Moore right in front of me. I really wanted to get DJ Moore there. Looking at this, there's a guy at the top of the next tier of running backs for me. Look, running backs, Damien Pierce, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Alexander Madison, Cam Akers. Damien Pierce is really at the top of that for me. I think he's a very safe pick. He had a great year last year with a ton of volume on a very shitty team. The team did improve. They're still, you're going to go from 2 wins to maybe 6 wins, but they're improved for sure. But there's no reason to think that Damien Pierce won't get the same workload. I'm going with Damien Pierce to pair up there with Josh Jacobs. Okay. After Damien Pierce, DeAndre Hopkins, Alexander Madison, and I'm back on the clock here. This is an area where I could look at quarterback. But I think I'm going to punt on that, and I'm going to see what my receiver options are. I'm going to take, this guy I really do like. We did a Would You Rather with Drake London, but I've been wanting to get him in some drafts. Haven't really been able to get him as much as I've wanted to, but I think he's in a really good position for a breakout this year. I'm going to take Drake London here in the 5th round. All right, Terry McLaurin, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Justin Herbert, Cam Akers, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Christian Watson, and Frankie, you're on the clock. We had a big quarterback run there.
Huge quarterback run there. I mean, we're looking at the quarterbacks that are left on the board is Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Tua, Aaron Rodgers. So certainly a drop off from that perspective. Now, from a running back side of things, there's James Conner, there's DeAndre Swift, there's Alvin Kamara. From a receiver, it's Jerry Jeudy, Chris Godwin, Brandon Ayuk, and Mike Williams, again, in the 5th round at the 11th pick right now. So with my team, I'm pretty balanced. I'm actually very, very happy with the team that I have. I have 2 great receivers, 2 excellent running backs. So I can pretty much do anything here. And honestly, I'm going to snipe somebody from you, John. And you already went tight end here, but this is a guy that is your champion. You are planting your flag here. And where I can get Darren Waller at this round, at this pick, knowing that I have the snake back, I am drooling over it because his value at this point in regards to the receivers that are on the board and the running backs that are on the board for my team construction, this is a massive lift. So I'm locking in Darren Waller at this pick.
You know, I love it. I got nothing but good things to say there. Get him in at 5'11". It's great.
It's great
spot for him. Yeah.
So, John, after that, it was DeAndre Swift, Jerry Jeudy. I'm back on the clock. And here is something that I normally wouldn't do, but I'm going to do it, man. Because I want to stack. I want to stack attack. And I want it to be the Brownies going hard. And we're going to come out and we're going to fucking win against week 1 against these Bengals. I'm pumped up. Are you pumped up? Locking in Deshaun Watson, baby. Pairing him with Amari Coop.
Right here, Deshaun Watson.
All
I'll
day.
let you think about what that means. But yeah, that's Deshaun Watson right there. All right, then James Conner, Chris Godwin, Dallas Goedert, Kyle Pitts, Tyler Lockett, Mike Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Alvin Kamara, and I am on the clock here. Yeah, and I've got a really balanced team as well, Frank, with Justin Jefferson and Drake London as my receivers, Josh Jacobs and Damien Pierce as my running backs, and Mark Andrews as my tight end. This is where I'll take a peek at quarterback, but I may be in that situation. If you don't take one of those top 5-6 guys, I typically will wait. Dak Prescott doesn't get me excited. Tua this early doesn't get me excited unless I'm trying to put together a stack with Tyreek or with Jalen Waddle. Aaron Rodgers, Richardson, you can wait a long time for those guys. So basically making a decision to punt here on quarterback for the moment. Running backs, Javonte Williams, Dalvin Cook. These guys are all kind of sharing time. Not sure how much I love that as my third guy. I could look at Rashaad White and Isaiah Pacheco. Those are guys we constantly see right next to each other. Receiver-wise, it's nothing that gets me crazy excited other than one guy. You know what, Frank? You took one of my champions. I'm going to take one of your champions. How does that make you feel?
Hey, you give and take. It's the give and take, John.
Yeah, I'm going with George Pickens here. It might be a tad of a reach, but you know what I've decided to do with this team, having Justin Jefferson, I want to get guys that are poised for a breakout. Drake London, George Pickens, those guys could be breaking out big time this year. So I'm going to try to get some lottery tickets as a starter in this draft and see if I can get a little risky. All right, Javonte Williams and Dalvin Cook were both taken. That's really, really interesting. And again, I'm going to punt on quarterback. Let's take a look at the running backs. And this one's tough. I mean, this is almost a 3-way would you rather, Frankie.
Yeah.
And these are all guys we've done in would you rathers. It's Rashaad White, Isaiah Pacheco, and James Cook. That's a really tough one for me. This is a half-point PPR. I think all of those guys are going to catch passes out of the backfield. I guess I'm a little more nervous about James Cook's actual usage. I think we have a lot of speculation on what it's going to be. And Pacheco's in a very crowded backfield. I think this is kind of a sissy move on my part. I mean, it's not a flashy pick, but I think it's got a great floor. If something were to happen to Jacobs or Pierce, I still have a guy who's the one without a lot of competition in there. I'm going to go with Rashaad White here.
Love it, John. I think that's a phenomenal pick. I think he's going to catch quite a few passes out of this backfield with check down Charlie as the quarterbacks there. So I love it, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. After Rashaad White, James Cook, Mike Evans, Isaiah Pacheco, Marquise Hollywood Brown, Christian Kirk, David Montgomery, A.J. Dillon, and Antonio Gibson were taken. All right, Frankie, you're on the clock at the 7-11 pick.
Yeah. So guys, I have a very, very balanced team. This is a really interesting team because usually what I'm doing is I'm drafting for best value. And so this time I wanted to show something that's a little more status quo. So I was able to get Stephon Diggs in round 1. I have Derrick Henry and then Joe Mixon in the next few rounds, pairing that with Amari Cooper, Darren Waller, and Deshaun Massage Watson. So now I'm looking at pretty much the entire board. And there's certainly a guy from a running back perspective that I'm all over. And John, this is a guy that you also love, and I'm going to come back and snipe him from you. It's Khalil Herbert, right? A starter on Chicago. I need another third running back to go alongside my 2 bell cows. And I think that this could be a very high upside breakout type of player this year.
Look at you taking another one of my champions, Frankie. And you must listen to the podcast. You really must.
I dabble.
All right, and coming around the turn, Jahan Dotson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, and you're back on the clock, man. Look at you with a balanced team. This is a really rare occurrence. I want to
very rare. That. And for those listening and watching too, like I also normally don't draft like this. I usually draft like how you've seen the previous mock drafts. I'm just insanely active throughout the year. But I wanted to show something different. So guys, I'm actually going to go back to the well at running back here. There's Zach Charbonnet, Brian Robinson, Rashad Penny, Saman J.P. Ryan. it's kind of all over the board. It's kind of like a shot in the dark at this point in time. And, I'm actually going to do something. I'm going to lock in Brian Robinson because, again, it gives me the guy that could be a starting bell cow, understanding that Antonio Gibson's going to be there for that pass catching role. But I want to see what Brian Robinson can do. And again, it gives me that fourth RB on my team.
All right. Yeah, he's not a guy that you're in love with and love throwing out into your starting lineup, but he's a very important piece to your team, your roster construction. To have that kind of safety and to have a guy that you can use because you're going to need him. I mean,
Definitely.
Yes, you've got Derrick Henry. Yes, you've got Joe Mixon. You're going to use these other running backs. Anybody that plays fantasy football knows that. All right, Michael Pittman Jr., then Deontay Johnson, Jordan Addison, Gabe the Babe Davis, Evan Engram, Brandon Cooks, Pat Firemouth, and Dak Prescott were taken. And I'm back on the clock here. Again, a very balanced team. I'm not jumping on quarterback as of yet. Running backs are interesting. You got Zach Charbonnet, Rashad Penny, Jamal Williams, and Samaje Perine. All very interesting pieces, depth pieces, really. I've got really good depth at running back. Let's keep hammering on some of these receivers. Here's my guy. When I see this guy at the top of this tier, looking at him at the 8-11 pick, it's Zay Flowers. Again, I'm going for those potential breakout candidates with my receivers. Zay Flowers is definitely in that category. All right, then David Njoku and Zach Charbonnet were taken. I'm back on the clock. I'm going to get crazy with quarterback. I am going to continue to wait, Frank, at this point.
Yeah.
I know guys will start taking backup quarterbacks and really piss me off, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to take another flyer here, Frankie. You're going to love this one. It could be a completely wasted pick, but in the 9th round, I'm not that concerned about it. If he brings back anything at all, though, I'll be extremely happy. I'm going to try a little Michael Thomas experiment. How does that sound?
Little MT action, baby.
Yeah. And why not?
You have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose in that pick, and you have only upside to gain. And if he's 100%, returns half of that value, it's gold.
Exactly. Also could be a completely wasted pick.
Very well could be.
Very well could be. Quentin Johnston taken, Tua Tagovailoa, Kadarius Toney, Aaron Rodgers, Treylon Burks, Rashad Penny, Jamal Williams, Samaje Perine. And Frankie, you're on the clock here. What's your biggest need at the moment?
My biggest need is certainly receiver. I have two really solid receivers in Amari Cooper and Stephon Diggs. I got to go back to the well. And right now, there are definitely a slew of receivers that I really like in this spot. I'm looking at Juju Smith-Schuster, Cortland Sutton, OBJ, Elijah Moore, Alan Lazard. There's a lot going on here. So for me, John, it's pretty easy. I'm going to go Cortland Sutton. He's the number one receiver right now in Denver. Judy's hurt. Tim Patrick's out. We've talked about him a lot. I'm locking in Cortland Sutton. I think he's going to have a great year.
That's a really good call. We talked about it on the last episode, but yeah, I mean, Cortland Sutton, he should be going in this range at least. He is the number one with Russell Wilson. We're not sure how long Jerry Jeudy's going to be out, but it's probably going to be a couple of weeks. Yeah, great call. After Cortland Sutton, Anthony Richardson, and Dalton Kincaid, and you're back on the clock.
So this is where it gets tough, John, because now I'm going to go back to the receiver room here. I'm looking at Juju Smith-Schuster, OBJ, and Elijah Moore. My heart is telling me one thing, my head's telling me the other, and my gut is telling me the third. And this is what's difficult. And what I mean by this is, guys, Juju Smith-Schuster, super high floor. Love that floor, but not a lot of ceiling there in New England, right? Especially with Devontae Parker and a few of the tight ends that they have there. OBJ, completely unknown, super high risk, could be very, very good reward or could get hurt immediately, right? And then you have Elijah Moore, which this might be a little bit of a reach at this point in time for him. And especially with me already having Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson, the stack is attractive, but do I want that much of that offense? So I'm actually going to do, with the way my team is constructed here, I'm going to go high floor. And that's because I already have Diggs, Cooper, and Sutton, all receiver ones on their prospective teams. I'm going to go with Juju Smith-Schuster and really lock in a guy that's been proven to get quite a few fantasy points over the last few years. And I feel good about that floor there.
Doesn't that make you, I drafted him in the last mock. Doesn't that make you feel gross just drafting Juju Smith-Schuster?
It's just boring. It's so
boring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so after your pick of Juju, we had Elijah Moore, Odell Beckham Jr., Kirk Cousins, Zeke Elliott, Elijah Mitchell, Dalton Schultz, Alan Lazard, and Devon Achane. And I am on the clock. We've got 3 picks left. This is the 10th round. I do need a quarterback, so let's plan ahead and make sure I don't miss out on that. Let me see here. Receivers, this is a good time for me to take a flyer pick, which really one of my favorite flyers to take. This is 10th round, is Sky Moore. All right.
Can't go wrong there, John. Got to get a piece of that Chiefs.
You got to get a piece of that Chiefs offense, always, man. Then Rashad Bateman and Jerick McKinnon, and I'm back on the clock. So I don't want to get too cute here if these guys all start stealing quarterbacks from me. And this one's tough. It's really, for me, it's between Geno Smith and Daniel Jones. My thought process in this, I do believe Geno Smith can repeat or be close to what he did last year. I know it was a freak thing for him, but he still has the talent. The team did get better. He's got some extra weapons in there. But I feel like he peaked. And I don't like taking guys that might peak and might be on their way down. I like taking guys that are on their way up and haven't peaked yet, maybe. Daniel Jones, I think a lot of people are sleeping on him. I don't think he's worth the contract he signed with the Giants.
No kidding.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty ridiculous, but they obviously very much believe in this guy. And I don't think he's had a lot of talent surrounding him in the passing game. Bringing Darren Waller on, my champion, I think is greatly going to improve his efficiency, his throws down the field. And I do think his legs, I don't think that's a fluke. I don't think he's going to run for 700 yards like he did. But 400 or 500 yards absolutely could be in the books for him. I'm going to go Danny Jones.
Danny Dimes, baby.
Danny Dimes, throwing dimes. Cole Kmet, Tank Bigsby, Adam Thielen, Jameson Williams, Raheem Mostert, Chigakonkwo, Damian Harris, Geno Smith, and Frankie, you are on the clock with 2 picks to go. What are you thinking here, buddy?
2 picks to go. I'll tell you what, I'm actually going to go running back here. There's a few running backs that I'm looking at. It's Tyler Algier, Jaylen Warren, Kendre Miller, Deontay Foreman. For me, it's going to be Tyler Algier. I know that they're going to look to Bijan as the guy. But God forbid something happens to him. We already saw Tyler Algier, and he is a very good running back. So I definitely think that he's going to be involved a little bit. So I'm going to look to get him late.
Frankie, there could be the way they're talking, and this is another thing we don't know. I mean, we're just going speculation and what the coaches say. You can't listen to the coaches on a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of disinformation intentionally being put out there. But it's interesting what they're doing with Bijan. They're splitting him out. They're running him as a slot sometimes. There's going to be opportunities, I think, where Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson are on the field at the same time. So he may have some standalone value, very much like we were talking about with Elijah Mitchell. So it could be really interesting. He's on my radar as well.
Definitely.
Okay, after Tyler Algier, Kendre Miller, and Tyler Higbee. Frankie, this is your last pick. What are you thinking?
So for my last pick, I want to go with somebody with some serious upside. And so I'm going receiver here. So what I'm looking at is there's Tyler Boyd, Rashee Rice, Romeo Doubs, Jacoby Myers, Darnell Mooney, Jalen Hyatt, and Niko Collins. For me, I'm going to go Niko Collins. The reason being is because he's going to be receiver 1 on Houston. Number 2 is the rookie quarterback in CJ Stroud has already shown very good synergy with that of Niko Collins. So I think if he can be a security blanket there, I think Niko Collins could have some serious value in getting him in the last round.
He's one of my favorite picks in the last round. We talked about, I think Naz took him in the last round in our draft. Mock that we did. But I love getting Niko Collins to get a number 1 receiver as a flyer as your last pick. It seems weird, doesn't it? Round 12. Yeah. Okay. I need to get a little depth here at running back. I need to take a look at maybe a flyer running back pick here. Only having Josh Jacobs, Damien Pierce, and Rashaad White. I could go crazy and do a little Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, he's kind of a darling of the preseason here. I think what I'm going to do, this guy's gotten, I've never seen a third string running back get so much press in the preseason. I'm going to go with Kenneth Gainwell here. There's something going on in Philly. I'm not sure what it is. There's not been a ton of information coming out about how they're going to use these running backs with Rashaad Penny and DeAndre Swift. All I've heard all offseason, all preseason and camp is how good Kenneth Gainwell looks and how much they're using him. So I don't know if they're going to do a 3 running back carousel in here and Kenneth Gainwell's the guy who's going to be in there for third downs. I really don't know. But you know what? I want a piece, and let's see. And we all know Rashaad Penny and DeAndre Swift are 2 of the most brittle and fragile running backs I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go with Kenneth Gainwell. Here's my last pick. And to round things off was Romeo Doubs. Okay, let's break things down here. You know what I want to do, Frankie?
What's that?
I want you to break down my team, and I will break down yours. How does that sound?
I love that.
A little different here. Yeah. And don't hold back. Don't hurt my feelings, brother.
No, love it, man. So, guys, looking at Johnny's team, getting JJ in the second overall pick, I love that. That's a shoe in gold. Getting Josh Jacobs on the back of that second round, if he falls that late, another gold mine there. So, just collectively to show the team, guys, and I think that would probably be the best way to approach this. Johnny has for his starting receivers, it will be Justin Jefferson, Drake London, George Pickens. For his running backs, it'll be Josh Jacobs and Damien Pierce. I have Mark Andrews, or he has Mark Andrews as his tight end. And then he does have great backups with that of Rashaad White and that of Kenneth Gainwell for the running back position. His bench players for that of receivers are Zay Flowers, Michael Thomas, Sky Moore, and Daniel Jones as his starting quarterback. John, for me, when I look at this team, I think it's a really well-rounded team. I personally, though, do not like going. I know it's one of your things. I don't like going Mark Andrews in the third. The reason being is because after seeing multiple drafts now, you could have Jahmyr Gibbs, you could have Najee, Ramondre Stevenson, and then look to target your Darren Waller, and then that bolsters your RB2 there. But Mark Andrews is obviously a top tier tight end, and with a healthy Lamar and a Todd Monken offense, he's going to explode. So it just depends on your strategy kind of heading in. Johnny, you've put your flag there. You planted that. You talk about it consistently. That is your thing. For me, I'm a little bit on the opposite end of that spectrum. But the other thing that I really, really love is your 3 picks in a row with Zay Flowers, Michael Thomas, and Sky Moore. The reason being is because all of those are super high reward and very low risk for where you drafted them, because you already have an anchor in Justin Jefferson and very good breakout potential in that of Drake London and one of my champions in George Pickens, who I think is going to be dominant. So to have that potential trade power to then supplement and maybe an additional running back at some point is excellent. So for me, man, I think this is an extremely well-rounded draft. I love Josh Jacobs in the late second there. And then obviously I love that receiver run that I just mentioned. So really well done in my personal opinion.
You know, the one thing I think, and you're right, and this is why we do mock drafts, because you kind of look at pairings there. So there's 2 picks there, the 3rd and 4th rounds. You're absolutely right. I mean, I got Mark Andrews in the 3rd, and I got Damien Pierce in the 4th. Now, I would have had to have reached for Darren Waller and taken him in the 4th in order to get him, just because of where I am in the draft. But would I like my team more with Jahmyr Gibbs and Darren Waller, or Ramondre Stevenson and Darren Waller, than Mark Andrews and Damien Pierce? It's interesting. And you're right. I think maybe I would like that. Yeah, it just gives me a little more juice at running back while not really sacrificing at tight end, hell, Darren Waller could be better than Mark Andrews this year, you know? So
totally.
Yeah. Looking back at that, that's what I should have done. And I think maybe that's because it's the front end of the draft.
Which is interesting.
Because I was drafting at 2, if I were in the back in your position and Mark Andrews fall to me, I'm taking him every single time. Yeah. Of course. But I think because I was in the front like that, there were some really good running back. I love Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
I love Ramondre Stevenson. Not a fan of Travis Etienne, and Najee makes me really nervous. If there wasn't a talent like Mark Andrews, then, I'd be forced to take somebody like Najee. But yeah, I think I would have liked my team a little better with Jahmyr Gibbs or Stevenson with Waller rather than Andrews and Pierce. But yeah. So be it. That's why we do the mocks, right?
That's exactly why we do the mocks.
Yeah. All right, let's get to your team.
Talk to me, man.
I'm going to break your team down here a little bit. And, I look at you with your discipline and, drafting a balanced team. It's very rare. You usually will pop off.
Totally different.
Yeah, the YouTube comments will agree with me that usually you do some crazy shit in mock draft.
Super crazy shit. And that's actually how I draft too. Like literally.
It is. Oh, I know. Believe me. All right, so jumping right off the bat with Stephon Diggs, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Amari Cooper. Great picks, man. I mean, just a really strong start to your draft. But your starting lineup, you've got Deshaun Watson at quarterback. You've got Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon at running back, Stephon Diggs, Amari Cooper, and Cortland Sutton in your flex. Having that Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper stack. It's not a stack we talked a lot about this year, but I really like it. I think we don't talk a lot about it because we don't know if Deshaun's Deshaun right now. It all depends on Deshaun Watson. But we saw with Amari Cooper what he did last year with Jacoby Brissett. He had an excellent year as a Cleveland Brown. If Deshaun Watson can, get back to anywhere near what he was before, Amari Cooper's set for a really, really strong year. And then, of course, you got Darren Waller, my champion, in your tight end position. But I like your depth here too. My other champion, Khalil Herbert, on your bench with Brian Robinson, Tyler Algier. Really solid, really good volume for backups there. I like what you did. Cortland Sutton, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Niko Collins. You've got a couple of veterans on there that have a very high floor with Cortland Sutton and Juju. And you got a young guy there that's a flyer, but he's the number one on a team. It's kind of funny when your last pick, with Niko Collins. It's funny that your last pick, your flyer, it's not really a flyer. The guy's going to play 80% of snaps. He's going to be on the field the entire game. So I really like what you did here, man. I mean, this isn't a team that, you're coming out of having to trade right away. You've got a solid ass team that you can just kind of set and forget for once. You never have that.
No. And it honestly, it's kind of fun, but at the same time, for me, it's a bit boring as well. But if I were to draft this team normally, John, I would love it. I would absolutely be completely comfortable and be thrilled. But what's fun is showing everybody over the course of these drafts, John, different strategies from 4 receivers in a row to 4 running backs in a row to drafting a more balanced team to being on the front end, to being in the middle. It's really, really fun to be able to see how these transpire. And I really, really appreciate the difference in strategy that you've even provided as well. So really fun time, man.
I love it, man. Great job. Good draft. All right. That is our mock draft for this week. This is our last mock draft. It makes me sad.
Wow.
There's a tear to my eye.
Wow.
I know. That's because we're all drafting for real this weekend. That's why. Let's go. So, hey, everyone, have fun. Be safe. Draft well. Have a great time. Try not to drink too much during the draft. The last thing you want to do is get hammered by, 6th round and you're not knowing what's going on. Frankie's been there before.
Been there. Shout out Alex's bar. Oh, yeah. Been there.
Draft at the Tiki Bar. Oh, yeah. Sometimes those got a little crazy. But hey, the most important thing is have a great time. Have fun. Fantasy football is supposed to be fun. But you know what's fun, Frankie?
What's that?
Beating your ass this year. That's what's fun. Oh,
Bring it. Bring it, baby.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Don't forget you can follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Frankly Fantasy Football and X Twitter at Frankly Fantasy F. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Frankly Fantasy Football. Smash those notification bells. It'll tell you every time we get a new episode out there. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned, guys. Before the season starts, we're going to do a little sneak peek of a week 1 preview. So we can give you some start-sit advice and some guys that we think are going to be great and give you some last-minute news as well for your start-sit decisions. Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy your drafts. We love you. May the fantasy gods smile upon you. Bye.